part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Burgoyne, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast, now part of Press Play Podcast Network. We are dedicated to all things related to the DC Comics superhero known as Superman, and every other DC thing, because we like DC. No, sorry there, people, but we like our DC. But we like comics, period, too. We will discuss movies.
I have.
James just read some Resident Evil comics, and I'm rereading Jupiter's Legacy.
There you go. I have some Marvel comics on my shelf too. Mm-hmm. Significantly less, but
I mean,
a few great storylines, I think.
Yeah, we do. And we're going to be doing some other stuff on our Patreon with other comic book characters and stories, so just wait to see that. But hey, I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman in Blue, the man of tomorrow, and with me is the host you know most, who likes to eat some beef roast and with laser glasses to a toast. It's Mr. James Cole, the Superman of Red.
Yeah, hey, talking about eating too much, I was at a birthday cookout for my stepmom and at my dad's house, at their house, and oh goodness, I ate too many burgers, and I ate a couple of hot dogs. I just ate too much. I couldn't move around too well last night.
Good thing you didn't have to be out fighting crime, because nothing sucks like that.
Yeah. I used to be able to eat like that all the time, and when I was working out all the time, and I don't that often, and when I do sometimes, it can be a rough couple of hours with your tummy feeling all full.
Followed by naps.
Yes.
I'll tell you right now, I've been eating more whole food, plant-based stuff, and it's good, but it does not leave me feeling as full as long. And I'm trying to tell that to Jania, she's like, didn't we just go grocery shopping? I'm like, yeah, and we ate it all, because we're trying to shop for each week. And I'm like, yeah, and we made that dinner and we used half the stuff we bought. She's like, so we're readjusting. I'm like, yeah, and it doesn't stay with us as long. And I'm hungry. So last night we did some cool breaded fried zucchini and eggplant with pasta. It was really good.
Sounds delicious.
We made a lot of it. So I'm like, yep, and there's lunch for today. But hey, this isn't the how to make some food podcast. We're pretty fun guys and laid back.
We do like to cook.
And talk about our families. But today, there's the beautiful Laura. She wants to join us. She heard food and was like,
Yeah.
But that's
she really likes to scrunch up her nose lately and breathe heavily.
But this episode is we got all the fun up front, because this episode we've been wanting to record for a while, and it's coming out a little bit later than we had planned because of life. But this is our RIP, rest in peace. We decided we waited a tick to do Neal Adams, who recently passed away, and then we had George Perez pass, and we decided let's just do a special for them together. So on today's episode, we're gonna talk about the legends that were Neal Adams and George Perez. Now, let's take a breath and just breathe. It's sad. I'm not going to lie. It's sad. I mean, Neal passed away. He was 80 years old. And George was 67. And that is, 80 years old. I hate, it was a good run, and death is part of life, and it's tough. But we are going to just give a quick history about each one and show basically our respects to these great comic book legends. So Neal Adams was an American comic book artist. He was born in June 15th, 1941, and then recently passed away at the end of April 28th, 2022. He drew comic strips on the television drama Ben Casey in the early 60s. Adams was hired as a freelancer by DC Comics in 67. Later that year, he became the artist for the superhero character Deadman. Adams and writer Dennis O'Neil collaborated on influential runs of Batman and Green Arrow, Green Lantern in the early 70s. I think one of the biggest Neal Adams stories that jump out is together they created Jon Stewart. They did the Roy Harper Speedy drug addiction storyline. And so many stories that it's going to be very hard for us to not miss something. Did you ever have the chance to meet Mr. Adams?
No, sir, I did not.
I met I saw him. Like, it sounds weird. We were in line to I had years ago got my trade of Hard Traveling Heroes autographed by Dennis O'Neil. And we were in line to meet Neal Adams and get it signed. So I had both of them having signed it. And the line was extremely long, which is fine. But we had the kids and they were getting fussy. And Neal was doing the signings for charity. So there was a higher price tag for the signature, which normally I didn't mind. But having the kids and everything, I was like, okay, let's just go. And I didn't get a chance to meet Neal.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of a lot of his stories. A lot of his. Obviously, I know a lot of things that have come from his work, like Speedy and his drug addiction, the hard traveling heroes.
Yeah. His what's funny, he drew the Superman and Muhammad Ali. And what's funny is, so I also, after their passings, okay, I did this. I watched the episode of Comic Book Men that featured Neal Adams. And the fun part with that episode is it was actually filmed and done shortly before he was doing the research for the comic book we're about to review of his here shortly. And he talked about the one Superman cover that he did that he hates, and it became super famous. And I actually have like a plaque of it. Hold on a second. The Amazing New Adventures of Superman #1. It's the one where Superman's breaking kryptonite chains. And it says Kryptonite Nevermore. He hates it because they changed and did like something with the lettering, and he had to extend the leg out to make it work. And the leg just looks awkward, and he hates it. And I think it's so funny that that's become such a huge like iconic Superman cover, and he hates it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I've seen. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've definitely seen that cover. I mean, they have that. They have that image of him breaking the chains, not just that cover, but just that image of him breaking the chains. It's everywhere.
So it's just interesting. So I watched that, just kind of seeing that. And then, of course, another thing that Neal did that's big and true and dear to us is Neal was the advocate at the height of his popularity, being the huge influence he was in the comic book industry. He was the one that got DC to reinstate Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster as being listed as the creators of Superman on every comic, and they basically got their retirement salary from DC.
Ooh, excellent.
So that is a huge influence for what he was able to do for creators. He's been a very huge advocate for
Yeah,
creators'
he was
rights.
a big deal for creators. That I know a lot about that. Got creators um, get got creators to be able to get paid what they um, what they deserved.
Um, yeah, I mean, just looking at I don't think there's a character in DC and um, I don't think there's a character in DC Comics or in uh, Marvel he didn't really touch in some way. I've not read any of his Marvel work. My most familiar with his work came from the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, because I was a big Green Arrow fan, and during that time that Neal took over with Dennis is really when they gave Green Arrow his true style. Like the Green Arrow that we all know comes from this era. Like that's the Ollie. I think everyone really recognizes the look, the feel is from
The
that.
Robin Hood.
Yeah, I mean it's a great look. I mean, uh, it is a great look for him that I wish we would see more of.
Pause. Caught a lull there.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
yeah.
Give me a minute. I'm coming, baby girl.
So I'm going to read a little blip here that kind of described um, their Green Arrow, Green Lantern run. These angry issues dealt with racism, overpopulation, pollution, and drug addiction. The drug abuse problem was dramatized in an unusual and unprecedented way by showing Green Arrow's uh, clean-cut boy companion speeding, turning into a heroin addict. All this endeared DC to the dedicated college reader of the period and won awards for both artist and writer. Sales, however, weren't especially influenced by the praise, and by 1973, the crusading had ceased. I remember dropping in on editor Julius Schwartz about this time and asking him how Relevance was doing. Relevance is dead, he informed me, not too cheerfully. After Green Lantern was canceled, the adventures of both superheroes continued in the pages of The Flash, 217, 219, and 226. It's, um, I think that's an interesting balance that comics have where they want to be relevant to the times and speak, but then sometimes readers don't want that because in a way comics are escapism. And I think there's a balance you have to strike with trying to be relevant and um, yeah, but let's see. Do you know what major Batman villain he helped co-create? Do you know?
Um, I want to say Roz, but
And you are correct, mother trucker.
but I wasn't sure about that.
He's like, geez, Tyler. Oh, why am I getting text messages from my wife?
Well, he's got Jawas coming after him.
That's
They're gonna rob you. They're gonna steal your computer, all your gear.
that would be the great Jania messaging me. Let's see. They helped create Ra's al Ghul. They revitalized Two-Face. They wrote the Joker's Five-Way Revenge. And I say they because at this time it was Neal Adams' art with Dennis O'Neill's writing. And his art is unprecedented. Like it kind of became like almost like the DC standard for the time. Um,
Oh yeah, most when you look at his art, you can see his influence on, I mean, comics as a whole, but definitely DC of that era.
so it's interesting, and we will be reviewing here just shortly um, the 6-part 2016 Adams wrote and drew called Superman Coming of the Superman miniseries. And I always think it's interesting because I think every comic book artist like can be a comic book writer as well, but I think sometimes I don't know. Sometimes there's a different way of style when they write compared to just a comic book writer. Um, so, but we're gonna dive in there. If you have the DC Universe app, it's on there. That's how we were able to read the whole thing. I actually have the first issue of it. I bought it just because it was Superman, Neal Adams, awesome, and I didn't really like the first issue. So I didn't finish it, and I'm glad that we did go back to it and finish it. So if you're ready, let's jump over there. I wish I had a swish sound.
Okay. Well, I mean, so this is the first time that I've read this arc, this mini series.
Yeah.
So you sent it over to me, and I was like, "Oh man, the day it was announced that he had passed."
I was like, read this. And you were like,
Yeah.
what? What are you talking about, Tyler?
I said, "Oh, sweet, of course, yes, definitely."
You're
And I read all of it.
like, more stuff? Thanks a lot, Tyler.
More to read.
You're like, gosh.
Well, you know what? It's nice when you have the time. This week did not allow it for me, and neither really did last week. I haven't read that much in the last 2 weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah, I picked up my comics and I only read one of the 2 issues that I bought this week because that's how busy I've been. So, but I'm pulling it up right now. It's so weird. Like when we want to review comics, and I'm like, let me pull it up on the computer compared to let me grab this book off my shelf.
Right. I mean the cover to this comic is pretty sweet. I mean Superman down in front, and then you got 3 Supermen flying over him. And it's interesting. They got collars and stuff on their suits.
Yeah, and they're all like redhead. It's weird. Like just they look so different.
Yeah, there's a redheaded guy, there's a blonde guy, and then there's a black guy up there too.
So it came out on February 24th of 2016 and ran till July 6th was the run. I do like the way he did the Superman's belt though in this.
Yeah,
So
I do like that.
I'm pulling up issue 1. You ready? Superman: The Coming of the Superman #1. Written by Neal Adams, and he had a co-writer. But you know what? When you write with a legend, does anyone really care that you were the co-writer? You know,
I mean they should. They should.
they should, yeah. But do they? Digital comics, man. There we go. Sometimes it just doesn't do what I want it to do. Okay. So the story opens up with Lois. Basically, it's very Elseworld, not in continuity. Just throwing that out there real quick. Okay. For anyone who
Yeah,
loves,
this was written during the New 52, and this is very much not that Superman.
it's not that anything. Like
Yeah.
we have WGBS News with Lois Lane and strange visitors from another planet have arrived, and we see these people in a ship, and they're all wearing like Superman crests, and then they crash into the farm, and it, and it's just, I mean, this opening is like, because then the next page is parademons, and Luther's secret high-tech police force are jettisoned in Calabac. And that's on page 4.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I miss something? Was there a prequel comic? What's going on? Story and artist Neal Adams, words Adams and Tony Beard. And So Calabac is free. He's attacking. And then these three dudes show up who are like Superman. Meanwhile, Superman's on the other part of the Earth, and he's helping some people in the Middle East. And it's interesting because you know how like some artists and have their distinctive like when they draw it, you're like, oh, that is Lee Bermejo's Batman. Like every time Bermejo draws Batman, he draws him with a certain style. Um,
Oh yeah, unmistakable, Lee Romeo Batman.
so anytime he does it, like for a cover or he does a book, it's his Batman. And what's interesting, I say that because looking here, like this is Neil Adams doing Superman, but it doesn't say like this is the definitive like, oh, that's Neil Adams as Superman. It's just if you feel me, like the belt's a little different. I like the belt, okay. Um, and there's a part in this story where he saves a Middle Eastern child, um, Rafi, and basically adopts Rafi because Rafi continues to the story. And then this, did you? Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was a little confused at first with this whole green bat demon guy. Did you know what this guy was up to? Did you?
No, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I kind of.
Um,
I'm not sure. I still know what's up with him.
right. I don't know. I mean, he seems, by the end, he seems like he's like even over the new gods,
Mm-hmm.
um, Darkseid and Highfather. So it's very interesting because I mean, Superman, he tries, like he automatically assumes that he's a threat. So, um, but Superman isn't anything to this guy.
It's really interesting. Um, and then as the story progresses, we find out Superman takes Raffi back with him, and I guess Raffi just inherently learns that Superman is Clark Kent because he takes him to the Daily Planet with him, and he has like, where is it here? Mr. Kent, this little guy, he with you? Long story, Jim, but yes, for now. Like it's like, hey Jimmy, watch my kid.
Right? Kid? What kid? You don't have a kid.
I do now, Jimmy. It's this guy. Watch Raffi.
And this kid from the Middle East
And
just arrived here today.
yeah, yeah. How did he get here? Did you fly him in? Jim, stop asking questions. And it was just kind of funny to me, like just because I'm like so funny, typical Clark, just like yeah. But it is weird because Lois is working for a TV station, and Clark's looking at these other Supermen on the screen, trying to figure out what's going on. And then,
And what's interesting is he's waiting by to see. He's like observing them
mm-hmm.
to get an idea of who they are, what they can do, if they can handle it, or they um, not equipped for it.
And then there we see Luthor. It's a very old style looking Lex Luthor, more robust looking Luthor, who comments on his people. And Clark tells Jimmy, uh, this won't take long. He leaves Raffi with Jimmy and he goes to meet these other Supermen. And he flies out there and starts fighting. I'm trying to get my, like, that's why I don't like digital comics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he flies out there. Lex basically tries to boss him around, as Lex always does. Yeah, he definitely tries to boss him around, but Superman flies out and he attacks the parademons. Kind of flies through them pretty quickly, handles them really fast. Because they even talk about how much more powerful he is than them.
Mm-hmm.
All the parademons and Calabac, they all retreat back through the boom tube.
Of course they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then Superman runs into Greenfellow. And he takes him back in time, basically to Egyptian days. And
To Egypt 10,000 years ago, which is even longer than like your ancient Egypt time.
yeah, and then there's Darkseid, and it's interesting as he says in the last page, he says, "You expect me to believe Darkseid built the Sphinx?" And Green Man says, "I expect you to look more closely when I show you the truth. That is not Darkseid, but his progenitor." What? His father? Are you saying I'm saying nothing? I show you the facts and you make sense of them or fail and lose everything. So that's a very interesting concept. Darkseid's father being in ancient Egypt. Um,
Yeah, I still don't quite know what to make sense of that because it doesn't really seem. I don't recall them really
doesn't really track,
um,
and that's why I say
revisiting.
it's such a Elseworlds table story. Um, for me, like, because I was kind of confused at the same time, like what's going on here. But in page two, or I mean issue two, we have Ma Kent looking after Raffi because he's gonna be hanging around here for a while.
He named the dog Algonquin.
No, it's
It
not
was
Ma
funny.
Kent. Man, I'm stupid. Now I remember. I gotta stop reading so many comics.
They blend
They do, and that's
sometimes.
why I'm like, okay, we gotta like read, and then as soon as we're done, turn around to each other and just record because now I'm blending with something else I read. No, this is somebody else that's watching him. Where is her name? Because
Oh,
you know what? Screw it. Spoiler: it's Granny Goodness.
yeah, he calls her Miss Goody.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, I knew it was some sort of play off the name, but it's
I
Granny.
was like, oh, is that Granny Goodness?
Of course it is, James. Of course it is.
Well, you get the idea. I mean, the possibility once Calabac showed up in the first 4 pages of the last issue.
And they didn't even wait. They were just like, boom, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Calabac. It's like, okay, all right. And then Superman goes off to finally meet the other Superman. What'd you think about that when he met the other Superman?
Um, well, I mean, isn't he? He's on the way, and then Calabac returns.
Yes, Calabac was Steppenwolf, and um, the other Supermen show up. There's Lex's people. They all fight. They escape in a
Ah, there
boom
we go.
tube, and then when they start, and then we have where they like Superman's talking to them, and they kind of reveal who they are. Um, even their story's a little bit like, oh, okay, I'm because they're like beat up because they don't have full Kryptonian power like Superman does. He says, one says, I'm a major retired police captain of Candor. Excuse me, Maj Dash R. I'm Tan M. I'm a Duther Ball quartersman. I'm on my vacation. I'm Vor M. I'm Tam M's cousin. And he says, I don't get up one morning, you all. I don't quite get it. You woke up one morning and all three of you decided to dude up and take a day trip to visit and watch your hero in action. Not that I wouldn't do the same thing given a dull day. And
That's funny. Take a trek across the stars.
I mean, sometimes I wake up like, hey, James, you just want to, go hang out and dress up as Superman? Usually James
Of
like,
course.
James like,
Of
what the
course.
heck is your problem, Tyler? You know I got responsibilities. Of course I want to go.
We do that once every few months.
He's like, how dare you ask? You know the answer. It's like, oh yeah, word up, dude. Sounds good.
Right. Well, during that invasion, you kind of see that friggin' dark side, that like ancient looking dark side again.
Right. I'm like,
Um, and then everybody goes through the boom tube. He says the distraction raid has achieved its purpose. Back to Apocalypse with my prize.
and then we find out Superman that they took a blood sample from the Superman, and Luthor has it. Superman tears everything up and destroys it. But Luthor takes a pill with a little bit of the sample, takes a capsule, so that he can, hustle some drugs and keep it. I'm waiting for my comic to catch up with me here.
Yeah, the interesting thing being like he goes right after their blood. Like he finds out that they drew their blood with needles because obviously that can't happen to him. Um, but their bodies are not as indestructible as his. So much time on Kandor. I think it was Kandor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on another planet on the other side of the solar system.
And then the book ends with,
But he tears up the labs, and then he flies into Luthor's lab and just tears it up.
yeah, of course he does. Because why? He's Superman. You don't take his blood. It's messed up. It's messed up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Well, it looks as though Luthor kind of gets away with it by swallowing something containing the Kryptonian's DNA, so he'll have it for later. Because Superman uses his heat vision to incinerate a bunch of stuff in what seems like some sort of centrifuge.
mm-hmm. And then in the end, Calabac shows up, takes Raffi, jumps through a boom tube. And you're like, oh, okay. But as the story progresses, we don't have to go book by book. Superman and the other Supermans eventually take a trip to Apocalypse. I don't know about you, but I always get worried, like when Superman goes off world, because like the whole our sun powers him. So like when he goes off world, I'm always like, oh, Superman, is that smart?
Right. I like the idea though that if he doesn't go to some place where he's like automatically depowered.
Mm-hmm.
Like automatically his powers are shut down. Takes him some time, so he's able to overcome, getting weaker as time progresses.
Yeah. So they decide to take the ship and go to Krypton, or New Krypton, and we learn about New Apocalypse. New
And
Apocalypse. And New
Genesis.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of reading the whole New Krypton saga, and that's what's on my brain right now. It's a lot.
Yeah. Like the planet is like divided up into 3 sections, and the Kryptonian section is actually like the strip down the middle around the planet.
Yep.
And because Kryptonians have these amazing shields, atmospheric shields, they're like able to keep Apocalypse and New Genesis separated, if not for the boom tubes. The boom tubes can open up anywhere.
Which is
So
crazy.
Apocalypse is like constantly trying to invade Krypton and New Genesis.
It is weird. Lois went with them, like
stowed away.
And then we have just more and more battles between everybody. And then we have Darkseid show up talking to Lex Luthor. And that's always interesting. Darkseid and like Luthor. Luthor creates some sort of uh like gloves, like gravity gloves or something. And Darkseid looks at him and says, like, of course, multiplying gravity might even have an effect on Superman, and we shall see in the future. But you will, even in a increase of gravity, even a mild increase of gravity. And Darkseid basically flips it around on him. And I'm like, why would you try to double cross Darkseid?
Yeah.
And then Superman's fighting Calabac. And Orion shows up at the end. And I'll tell you what, any Orion I see anymore does not compare to the Orion of Young Justice.
Yeah.
That Orion is like brutal.
You know what's brutal is this punch that Superman delivers right to Calabac's face. The bottom of this second to last page.
Yeah.
Like I think if it wasn't such a close up image and it was like outright, you'd see like glass shattering.
For Calabac. And then we're at issue 4. The cover is interesting. It's like an explosion behind Superman ripping his costume. And we now have Calabac, and we have Orion fighting. And I do think it's interesting when Orion first takes off his helmet. And he says, of course, let me put my face back on. A second only, there is one question. And like, we see his face all, looking more crazy because he is the son of Darkseid. And then he like uses his technology to make himself look not scary and young. So I do always think it's interesting that Orion's like the actual son of Darkseid.
Yeah. It's a very compelling story. With all the like prophecy and stuff because of the war and peace that they fight over centuries, over thousands of years, millenniums.
Yep. And then we have Superman fly through the ship, and it explodes. It's interesting. Darkseid said it will weaken the Kryptonians so we can enslave them. I have to stop that ship. Exactly. Good luck. And then Superman flies through it. It explodes. Says he's too late, but Superman has failed and now floats helpless and unconscious. His body shuts down and will soon be drained into the blazing sun, incinerated, and finally destroyed. That's cheerful. And then you turn the page, and there's Goody with Rafi, who turns out to be Granny Goodness.
Right, of course.
And then Orion saves Superman, brings him back. And then we have Luthor and Darkseid talking with their plans. Luthor's trying to say how smart he is with his mind. And then Luthor, let your final conscious thought be stay away from Earth. So Luthor's trying to test and get rid of Darkseid to leave Earth alone. And then on the next page, we have James modeling Superman. Very 80s looking. He has a headband, cuffs, and just the briefs on and the belt. The way James the way James struts around his house.
Yeah, definitely.
He's like, I am Superman. And they're basically trying to heal him, and he pops up. He says, where's Rafi? He puts on his suit. I'm just kind of interested, like, were those trunks under his suit? Like, he has trunks under his suit? Because then did he take the trunks off, put the suit on, then put the trunks back on? Like, I'm a little, because
Maybe the legs of his suit are just thigh high.
Maybe.
They go all the way up to.
Putting a lot of thought into this. Because if you go back and look at the art, like as he's holding his suit, there's like 2 holes in the bottom that like, how does that work, Superman? I'm now intrigued by your suit. But anyways, Orion and Superman run off together, and they meet below on the back streets of Apocalypse. I don't ever really think of Apocalypse having too many back streets, but there is.
Well, apparently, I mean, they do have like slave grovels and housing and stuff. I mean, we saw that in Young Justice, right? They
Yeah,
had like a bar type thing.
that to me is always just interesting. So I always think it's interesting. Um, and then there's Lois with a power stick that she got, and then Lois says, "Oh my God, it's Raffi strung up like a fly in a web." And then there's Granny Goodness, and it's just like, wow, poor Raffi.
Yup, poor child.
He's like, I should have stayed in the Middle East.
Yeah, right.
And then
Being used as a pawn between gods.
the 5th cover is interesting because it's Superman in the middle, like keeping Luthor and Darkseid away from each other. And then I love what I love about these digital comics. They have the ads in them, and we still have the 1-shot 80-page special for Rebirth, starting 5/25/16. And this was like right at that time.
Oh man.
I know. So so it's kind of the same panel of Granny Goodness, just different dialogue. And Raffi, and here comes Superman punching every person.
Every apocalypse bad guy soldier.
He's like, and he punches in, looking for him, finds Granny Goodness. And she's like, don't move, one more. And your little Raffi gets it. And then Lois gets Granny from behind with her stick. Then Calabac shows up. And then from behind comes Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. And then there's Raffi just smiling, holding his dog.
I like them showing up like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I like that part of the story.
I like Mr. Miracle and Big Barda.
Yeah, especially when they're fighting on Apocalypse against Apocalypse.
And he,
against Darkseid.
And he talks a little bit more about the middle corridor is New Krypton, the east side is Apocalypse, and the west side is New Genesis. I'm like, that's a messed up planet.
Right.
And then Metron shows up.
It's a lot of powerhouses in the solar system.
And there's like an underground train. They're trying to move people around. And then, hey, the other Supermen show back up. You know, the whole reason that this book started, the coming of the Supermen, like they show back up to help. And so does Green Guy. And he's trying to get Lois and Raffi to safety. I do like the artwork here, the panel where it's like one big block of Superman and there's 2 smaller blocks on top, and it's Superman talking to Lois. And at the bottom is where Big Barda and Mr. Miracle says they'll take Raffi. And then there's Green Guy looking, and he says, it is as he says, the game in deep. Daddy got to go to war. And then they look up at Green Guy kind of like freaked out. And then the next panel is them two, is Lois and Superman kissing, which is kind of abrupt because we have no idea where they stand right now. Like where, like what their relationship is, or anything.
Does she know that Clark is Superman?
Right.
At all? Anything, yeah.
Right. And then she says, what does she say? She says, "This better not be a bum steer." Lois, I can't believe you just said bum steer. And she turns to Raph and is like, "It's a cowboy saying." "Oh, forget it. You wouldn't understand." He's like, "Whatever."
Like, is that a thing because she knows that he's Clark, and it's could be like a Midwest thing like that?
Right. I was just like, okay, this is weird, but all right.
Now we got Luther and Darkseid um, talking about their plans. Send coordinates to his for to his boom tube. Um, he says he will bring his army, dismantle his lab, and take it back to Apocalypse. He says you would have to dismantle me and take me back with my machines. That is very much the plan.
And then a boom tube opens and Superman comes walking out. And he says, "Greeting, gents. Whose move is it?" And Darkseid's like, "Where's my men?" Luthor's just laughing. And Superman's like, "There was a disagreement. I had more votes." And then he turns around, "Shut up. Shut the Hades up, Luthor. Not so damn funny now, is it, you pompous ass?" "Luthor?" says Superman with a question mark. And Darkseid.
Looks like Darkseid incinerated Luther.
I just like the fact that Darkseid is using like human cuss words. It's weird.
Right?
And then the last and final issue where it all comes together, called Answers. It's so hold on. I gotta back up. What did you say? Darkseid, what? That's a very weird page. Just a lot of people sitting around saying what?
Well, he keeps. So Luther comes back. He pops up, and he just keeps blasting him over and over again, destroying him. And he's like, "What?" He doesn't know what's going on. And then, yeah, what? Like nothing. They didn't say anything. Except he called him, "You coward, coward, face me. I cannot believe this putrid mudball birthed the greatness that is Apocalypse and all mankind that."
And they just keep arguing. And Luthor is like, he says, you will do your dark work without me. And this cube has changed everything you own from you. I no longer. My cube. Ha ha ha, you see? Indestructible. And then Superman takes the cube. That's quite incredible. Indestructible. Let's see. And he crushes the cube and it shatters. Then Darkseid punches Superman dead in the face. I mean, it is straight up in the face. And he says, "This is not over," as a boom tube opens. He says, "You test my patience, Kryptonian." He's like, "What patience?" They take the boom tube, and on the other side, there's Green Guy. And he says, "I don't get it. Who are you?" "I am L. I am nobody." Then Darkseid comes through the boom tube looking angry. And I see, and just he says, "Mortal Kombat."
That was hilarious.
And Darkseid comes out and he's like, "L, you two know each other?" "Of course you do. I guess this is what you call a moment. I didn't expect you here ever. My friend Kal-El will be departing from you when he finds his friends." Of course. So Darkseid's a little afraid of L, I guess.
Yeah.
He's like, "This journey has come to an end. You can reset the clock." "I can. I must be fair to all who would have to be quick to close the door yourself." And then "I will close it behind us." And he pushes Superman through like the boom tube. Superman comes out and sees Raffi. Um, and there's Lois and Orion. And then Orion punches Superman in the face.
What the hell? What the hell do you think Darkseid's going to do now? Plan A has failed. Now he's on to Plan B. What's Plan B? Invasion of Earth.
How do you know invasion is Plan B? Because I planted Plan A into his head to play for time. It comes down to the boom tube. Darkseid can simply muster his whole army and attack. Through the boom tube, I used Plan A, Luthor, to delay his invasion and gather some help, like you and him. And he's pointing to the dog. The dog's the puppy, and that is exactly what he is about to do. If he is the person Orion knows him to be. But the boom tube, no place is safe from the boom tube. It's indestructible, isn't it? Yip, yip, says the puppy. And then Orion, a distraction. That must be dealt with. Barda, my brother Scott, I will join you. You'd better take my dog, says Raffi. Kal-El, Lois Lane, this is my grandfather. And it's been a long time, Kal-El. It's Highfather. So Isaiah? Is how you say it?
That's what it seems like, kind of, yeah.
Is the Highfather of New Genesis, Lois, and one of the reasons that this is the story you could never write. Who would believe it? He was just a puppy. Now, better to my guard, my grandson.
So Raffi is of New Genesis also.
Yep. And then he says, first must take a weakened new Kryptonian and use the boom tube to invade Earth. This is not a skirmish, but an all-out attack. We must drive him back. And then what? Then close the boom tube. The boot? Impossible. Let's just go see. And so the last couple of pages is just a bunch of fighting, Darkseid yelling, lots of creatures, Superman, Orion, the Superman, punch, 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 boom tube, things thrown in a boom tube. Superman then folding and closing the boom tube as if it's physical matter, turning it inside out, pulling it backwards to bringing him to Apocalypse. And Darkseid's like, destroy him, level all weapons at his heart, kill him, destroy. And then he just walks away. His loss, he can't abide it. He lost a round. I'll call Metron. It's time for everyone to go home, says Orion. And then we see Superman saying goodbye to Highfather and Raffi. We see the planet. Let me guess. The new Kryptonians have deeded you the other side of Nibiru. Now that you have disabled Darkseid's boom tube, it'll be safe for us to move in. Superman says goodbye to Raffi, the Superman. And he has, I have more questions about you than answers, talking to the Green L. I recorded all these events to keep a journal of all of your progress. And then the last panel is Raffi and Highfather walking through a boom tube with Lucer. And farewell, Highfather, Raffi. Farewell, all, and welcome to New Genesis. Raffi says, go, go, Power Rangers. It's a little random and weird. And then we're left with the thoughts of Luthor, where he says, and I improved my record keeping from all your blood collected. That proves that you are all human. And that's the end. Very interesting and somewhat confusing story.
Yeah.
It was a good read, but I feel like we got like the middle chunks, and I feel like it should have been an 8-parter. We should have got a nice wrap-up book and a nice intro book.
Right. Well, yeah, there's nothing where did anything come from in this, and then why are they all three on one planet?
Yeah, it's like a whole Elseworld story that needed more expanding.
Yeah, and then what's the idea after it, you know? What's the if they all share a similar ancestry, humans and Kryptonians and new gods, like what's that supposed to prove? Like there's nothing before, nothing after.
Weird. But it's time to move on from Neal Adams. Rest in peace, sir. Thank you for your work. And let's jump over and talk George Perez. Now, as we start George Perez, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of characters created by George Perez. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
And I'm going to do DC characters because he's got a lot. Ready? Starting with A. Ares. Blackfire. Brother Blood. Adrian Chase. Cheetah. Cheshire. Cyborg. Cersei. Deathstroke. Hive. Hades. Harbinger. Then go up to I. Jericho. Betty Kane. Magenta. Maxima. The Monitors. He has a hand with Nightwing. We'll get there. Let's see. Zeus. Wintergreen. Vigilante. Trigon. Taskmaster. Oh, wait, that's Marvel. Teen Titans. Terra. Starfire. Silver Swan. Raven. Ravager. Protector. Poseidon. So basically everything that we could possibly think of that impacts the Teen Titans was created by George Perez.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So in prep for this, I did rewatch the George Perez episode of Comic Book Men, where he draws Wonder Man for Mike Zapsik. And it's a cool, you see just how nice and friendly this man was. And you get to see his wife, who makes...
Hello, people. My name is Venom.
Oh crap! It's Venom, aka Sailor Venom. She's come downstairs to fight me.
I was like, whoa, somebody's possessed over there.
She's wearing Solomon's Venom costume.
So she is possessed by a symbiote.
And then Solomon and I did some more research. Oh, I was gonna say, George is known for wearing these crazy outlandish shirts, but the fun part is his wife makes all of his shirts for him.
Ha! That's awesome.
So Solomon and I did research and watched the Teen Titans Go episode that actually features George Perez and Lynn Wein. Or not Lynn Wein, Marv Wolfman, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, I thought that was Marv Wolfman.
Yes. So George has an amazing resume, especially with the Teen Titans and another character. What's the other character, James?
Wonder Woman. It's the answer you were looking for, correct?
Yes, it was.
I know he had a pretty long run on Wonder Woman.
And his run on Wonder Woman is pretty much the basis of everything that we think and know of Wonder Woman. Like in that breakdown, I gave how many characters were...
Oh yeah, there were so many. There were so many of the Greek pantheon in there.
Exactly.
So seems like he was responsible mostly for giving us the DC versions of the Greek gods.
Yes. Let's see. George Perez was born June 9th, 1954 in South Bronx, New York. And he settled in New Jersey. Let's see. Let's read here. George began to draw at the age of 5. His early career, Perez's first involvement with professional comicry was artist Rick Buckler's assistant in 1973. He made his professional debut in Marvel Comics' Astonishing Tales 25. Then, Perez came to prominence with Marvel's superhero comic team The Avengers, starting with issue 141. In the 1970s, Perez illustrated several other Marvel titles, including Creatures on the Loose, featuring a Man-Wolf and the Inhumans in Fantastic Four. Writer Roy Thomas and Perez crafted a meta-fictional story of the Fantastic Four in number 174. So he went on and was prominent at Marvel. Then, 1980, while still drawing the Avengers for Marvel, Perez began working for the revival DC Comics, offered the art to launch the new Teen Titans. Written by Wolfman and Perez, the real incentive was the opportunity to draw Justice League of America, an ambition Perez which seemed like a natural progress from the Avengers. Longtime Justice League artist Dick Dillon died right around that time, providing an opportunity for Perez to step up in a regular artist. While Perez's stint on JLA was popular with fans, he received greater attention for his work on the new Teen Titans, which was launched a special preview in DC Comics Presents number 26. This incarnation of the Teen Titans was intended to be DC's answer to Marvel's increasingly popular X-Men comic, and it became highly successful. Excuse me. A new Teen Titans drug awareness comic book sponsored by the Keebler Company was drawn by Perez. Then think about it. Teen Titans, we think about almost everyone in that team is like the ones we see always. We think of from Teen Titans Go to Young Justice, with Robin, who becomes Nightwing, but Raven, Starfire, Beast Boy, Cyborg. And on the cover, you also have Wonder Girl and Kid Flash. But also, here's the big one that George Perez gets known for. There's this little thing that DC did called Crisis on Infinite Earth. Ever heard of it, James?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a
we only
small
had
thing.
a CW special on it a while back, also as well.
Yeah, I guess you could say it was kind of a big deal, but whatever.
Yes, it's kind of the biggest. It's kind of the biggest crisis, the first crisis that afflicted the DC universe.
And he drew that. And right there is enough to just be like, hang your hat, retire. But
Oh yeah, he did lots of pages where he was just like, I'm gonna put as many people as possible on this in this piece, in these artwork, in all this artwork.
So he took a break from the new Teen Titans to work on Crisis on Infinite Earths. Then Perez played a key role in the 1987 reboot of the Wonder Woman franchise. So now this is post-Crisis Wonder Woman. Writer Greg Porter spent several months working with editor Janice Race on new concepts for the character before being joined by Perez. Inspired by John Byrne and Frank Miller's work on refashioning Superman and Batman, Perez came in as the plotter and penciler of the series, which tied the character more closely to the Greek gods and jettisoned many other elements of her history. Perez at first worked with Porter and Lynn Wein. There's where I got the Lynn Wein reference. On the stories, but eventually took over the full scripting chores. Later, Mindy Newell joined Perez as co-writer for nearly a year. While not as popular as either Titans or Crisis, the series was very successful and relaunched one of DC's flagship characters. Perez would work on the title for 5 years, leaving as artist after issue 24, but remaining as writer for up to issue 62, leaving in 1992. Perez returned to the character in 2001, co-writing a 2-part story in issue 168 and 169 with writer-artist Phil Jimenez. Perez also drew the cover of Wonder Woman 600, as well as some interior art for the successful 2017 Wonder Woman feature film directed by Patty Jenkins, would credit Perez's work on the title character as a major influence, on par with the work of the original creator, William Moulton Marston. What an influential comic creator. He returned to work on Teen Titans later on. Perez was involved with Superman in various times over his career, including tenure on Justice League of America, Action Comics 544, where he designed, ready for this, James? George Perez designed Lex Luthor's trademark battlesuit. These designs for the villain were featured as part of the licensed action figure storyline for the Superpowers collection and remain in use in today's DC Comics continuity. Perez penciled DC Comics Presents number 61, which features Superman and OMAC team up. Perez briefly wrote Adventures of Superman, providing plots for issues 456 to 459, which is August of 89 to October of 89, and inks for issues 461. Due to an already heavy workload while doing both Wonder Woman and Superman at the time, he left Action Comics with issue 652. And continued to bounce between DC and Marvel. He went over to Marvel and did the Infinity Gauntlet storyline and art, which helped spark what became the MCU storyline. But we don't talk about that right now. And then in the 90s, Perez left different comics to work.
Maybe on Patreon.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
One of these days.
We'll get there. We have an 80-year plan for Patreon, James.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we discussed that. Yep.
And I recently made a joke with Anthony Desiato about our Patreon because he's going to join us for our conversation on Patreon on that special Patreon thing we're about to launch in June. And I was like, yeah, we'll be here in our 80s. And as soon as we wrap it up, we'll now to start that horrible spinoff show and talk how bad it is.
Right.
Let's see. This is important. Like, he bounced back and forth, but in September of 2011, DC launched a new Superman series written by Perez, who also provided breakdowns and cover art with interior by Jesus Morano and Nicola Scott. Perez remained until issue number 6. So basically the New 52 Superman. The new Teen Titans hardcover graphic novel was published the same month, reuniting the creative team of Wolfman and Perez. Let's see. So I just want Perez some personal information because Perez has been involved in comics and he's worked for the different companies, Action or Boom Studios as well. In 2019, Perez announced that he was formally retiring due to various health issues and would continue to produce only a limited number of convention-style head sketches on commission and attended a limited number of conventions. Perez was married to Carol Flynn. He had no children. He had a brother, David, and a niece and nephew. Sorry, I got a
Moment of silence.
Yeah, it's one of those people like I would have really have liked to have met because he worked on the Judas Contract, A Lonely Place of Dying for Batman. In 2022, Perez was awarded the Inkwell Award Stacey Arrogant Special Recognition Award for his lifetime achievement in inking. I mean, he is up there. I think it's one of the most influential comic creators who's still like right now we're in this era where everything seems to be influenced by Jeff Johns. Like stories we get, TV we get, but to take a step back, I think in a lot of ways he's the underlining behind all that. He's the building block that a lot of the stuff that even Johns built off of, more so than some of the other creators. And I feel like it's that sad thing about when you're an artist, you don't always get the recognition that you deserve until after your death.
Yeah. Well, Johns wrote Infinite Crisis, taking the influence, even building the story off of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
And I plan on summer's coming to do a lot more comic book reading. I'll have. It's funny as I talk like I'll have more free time, but I have a lot planned for this summer. Just activities with the kids and stuff. But I plan on doing a lot more reading. And I'm gonna dig into his new Teen Titans run. I dabbled it before, but
yeah, Me as well. I mean, the only thing that I've actually fully read through that he was involved in was Crisis. I haven't had a chance to get into his Wonder Woman, which I really want to. Sounds like he was. Sounds like he was really delving into a lot with that run. And then I've always wanted to go back and check out some more Teen Titans and like Judas Contract and stuff.
So that's us here. You know, no matter how long we talked or what, I don't think we would ever give these two great men as much attention as they deserve. And it's hard to just kind of sit back as a fan and say like, wow, they were great. They were influential, because you say that, but these two men really were. Like, if there was a Mount Rushmore of comics creators, they would be up there. So we
Yeah, I mean, I put some of their work, some of their series, in some of my reading lists on DC Universe. So
yeah. So from James and I to everyone out there, they will be missed, but I'm glad that they left a legacy that we can all share. And then as my kids get older, I can pass down Teen Titans, because I think they would enjoy it. So remember, everybody, appreciate your artists and writers now. If there's people you want to meet, try to get to a convention and meet them. Tweet at them, say their praise, whatever, and thank them for the work they do.
Look up in the sky.
We just want to say, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network. Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/KryptonReport. You find all of our information right there. If you want to keep Krypton from exploding, join our $1 a month Patreon. That's right, for $1 a month, you'll get extra special content that you don't get on the main show, like movie commentaries and whatever else comes out of our mouths. So check it out, patreon.com/KryptonReport.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough super talk, check out these other podcasts: Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, Caped Wonder, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope Podcast.
Hey, we're going to press pause and hear a few words from our other podcasts on Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.